The Netiquette and the Computer Ethics. Overview: The Netiquette and the Computer Ethics discusses about the ethical issues in the field of computer, may it be in online or practicing in professional. Then, what is netiquette? Netiquette is simple stated, it's network etiquette. That is the etiquette of cyberspace, and etiquette means the form of required by good breeding or prescribed by authority to be required in social or official life. In other words, netiquette is a set of rules for behaving properly online. Then, netiquette or network etiquette is concerned with the proper way to communicate in an online environment. Consider the following rules adapted from Virginia She's The Core Rules of Netiquette. Whenever you communicate in the virtual world, we have one rule. Remember the golden rule. When you're communicating online, remember the rules of etiquette that you follow in your everyday life. Refrain from insulting, provoking, threatening, or insulting others. It is important to remember that your classmates and teachers or others are real people who are affected by the words you say and write. It is essential to keep in mind the feelings and opinions of others, even if they differ from your own. If you wouldn't say it to someone's face, don't say it in online either. Next, we have avoid slang, acronyms, and text talk. Communicating effectively in college and business environments requires the use of correct terminology, spelling, and grammar that can be easily understood. In an educational setting, even online, however, keep it formal. Your written communication should be professional and reflect proper writing style. For example, use your instead of your. While texting, example of this is kunyari yan, while texting, text pics can be great for your friends. Yan po. Next, we have avoid screaming in typed messages. Be aware of strong language, all caps, and exclamation points. It is easy for written text to be misread and misunderstood. Have you ever sent a text message with a good intent, but your recipient thought you were being rude? If so, then you have experienced this firsthand. By being cognizant of strong language, you can identify potential confusions before sending messages. And there's a tip here that read everything out loud before you send it. Next, for professional messages, avoid emoticons. Certainly, you shouldn't avoid being funny. We love to see your personality shine through in online classes. Many of our teachers are exceptionally funny too. But like mentioned in slide number 5, make sure that it is clear you are being funny and not being rude. Yeah, not being rude. Emoticons and smileys can be helpful when conveying humor or sarcasm so that it is read correctly. Just remember to keep the smiley faces away from academic purposes. Uh, the next, we have proofread your messages before sending them. Many people tend to forget the rules that apply to writing when communicating online. However, resorting to proper grammar and punctuation can make the message seem more professional and thought out. Not only does it make your text more readable, but it can also prepare you for professional writing that you might do in the future. Think about what you would like to read yourself. It should be easy to read and comprehensible. Uh, Strive to make your communication concise and free of any 1. Spelling and grammar error. 2. Confusing terms or phrases that could be misunderstood. 3. Errors of omission such as missing content or recipients. 4. Errors in accuracy of information. Next, we have exercise good judgment when sharing information with others online. Online privacy is something you should keep in mind when typing anything. Most things you post and share are probably going to be there for a long time. This means that you should stay away from anything considered inappropriate and rude. And never forward personal emails or photos or information without the permission of those involved in the communication. Be careful when sharing information and never share anything about a student or a professor or other people without their consent. To protect our privacy and safety, do not share online any sensitive personal information such as our home address or phone number, personal conversations. 3. Social plans such as vacations. 4. Financial information. 5. Username, passwords, or hints. 6. Anything personal that you would not want shared by others over the internet. Next, we have respect diversity in viewpoints. You should be aware that you are not always going to agree with the opinions of someone. However, keep in mind that you should always be respectful in discussion. You can disagree with someone and respect their opinions at the same time. It means na pwede naman tayong mag-disagree sa opinion ng iba and puwede rin tayong mag-agree, pero dapat patapusin muna natin yung gustong sabihin na opinyon nung kasama natin. Then next, when sharing a viewpoint that differs from someone else, it is a best practice to first acknowledge the other person by briefly restating what he or she said. But in your own words, this lets the person know that you are listening and trying to understand them. Yan, parang yung sinabi ko po kanina, na makinig muna tayo bago tayo mag-disagree or mag-agree sa opinion nila. Then, when we are presenting an opinion or criticism, it is helpful to use phrases that identify to whose point of view you are referring. If the opinion is yours, you can begin with the phrase of "in my experience" or "in my own opinion." Then, if it is a viewpoint of someone else, make sure you identify that in your message. Example, according to Eric Erickson or the president believes. Yan, mga ganyan po. Hence, it is the best to short and clear sentences when trying to explain something. It gets the points across more it gets the point across more effectively and leaves less room for misunderstandings. Don't let your point get lost in translation by typing too many unnecessary words na ayan po, ibig sabihin yung parang hindi naman po parang kailangan sabihin na parang ganun po. Then, however, make sure that all the information you want to present is still there.
Alright, so my topic for discussion are the core principles of proper netiquette. Alright, so proper netiquette are a set of rules that promote respectful and appropriate communication online. Netiquette can make people better understand each other, and following these rules can help create a better impression, which can then lead to longer and more meaningful connections. Alright, so it's all about the respect. A lot of arguments and bullying happen online because most people tend to forget that they're talking to another person. Alright, just because they're doing or saying these things behind the screen, they think that it's okay to do these things when really it's not. So always keep in mind that you're talking to someone else. Treat others how you want to be treated, and courtesy goes a long way. Alright, so now we're going to go through the 10 Commandments of computer ethics. This can help establish a safer and more meaningful digital space. So the first one is remember the human. We've already talked about this in the previous slide. Always be aware that you're talking to another person and not the device. The same rules of courtesy apply. Do not do or say to them what you normally wouldn't if they were right in front of you. Simple as that. Second is to adhere to the same standards of behavior online that you follow in real life. Now, while the standards of behavior can be different online, they should not be lower, all right? Do not let your ethics slip when you're online. So, for some people out there, they tend to become edgier, unhinged, and insensitive to others when they're online. This shouldn't be the case. Just because you're communicating online doesn't mean you should behave any differently. Bring respect, courtesy, and thoughtfulness wherever you go. Okay, so third is to know where you are in cyberspace. Netiquette varies from domain to domain. Depending on where you are in cyberspace, the same written communication can be acceptable in one area, but completely inappropriate in another. Alright, so basically you should be aware to who you're talking to and adhere to the boundaries as such. Alright, so for example, you can send jokes and memes to a GC that you have with your friends, but you probably shouldn't do that to your boss or your professor. Alright, fourth is respect other people's time and bandwidth. Not everyone has the same schedule as you, and you shouldn't expect them to just conform to whatever is most convenient for you. So you might message your teacher on Tuesday, but she doesn't reply until a week later, or maybe she doesn't reply at all. Alright? She was probably busy that entire time, and maybe she got the message really late because of poor connection, or whatever reason. But regardless of the reason, you should be understanding of other people's time and availability. As such, make sure that what you're sending is concise and straight to the point, so that you don't waste the time of others. Fifth is make yourself look good online. Online, there's often a lack of judgment associated with your appearance, voice, or clothes, which for the most part is good. But you can still be judged in your writing, so always check for spelling and grammar mistakes. Make sure you know what you're talking about and do so clearly. Be polite and be a decent human being. And don't share anything that can be incriminating or detrimental to someone's well-being or your own. Stay thoughtful and clean. Sixth is to share expert knowledge. Everybody is an expert at something to some extent. So if you're good at something or you generally have more knowledge about a subject matter, then feel free to share that knowledge to everyone so that they can learn from you. Information sharing is one of the core reasons as to why the internet was founded. Promote a space that encourages teaching and the sharing of expertise. But do, however, keep in mind that it's very easy to find things that are untrue in the internet. So whenever you're searching for information, make sure that what you find is, in fact, true. 7. Help keep flame wars under control. So flaming is when people express a strongly held opinion without holding back any emotion. Flame wars are when multiple people are involved in exchanging angry posts between one another. This can often be found in Twitter or in the comment section of a YouTube video. As much as possible, this should be controlled or it might end up getting worse, and it can even worsen the relationship within a community. If you see this, you can either not participate or even better, guide the discussion back to a more productive direction. Disagreements should be healthy. It's not that disagreements shouldn't happen, disagreements should be healthy. Always be respectful of other people involved. Next is respect other people's privacy. Don't post anything about anyone without their consent, especially if it's something embarrassing or personal. If you're exposed to it, then refrain from spreading it or sharing it to the wrong people. People can get hurt, expelled, and fired if a certain post is too explicit or if it violates the guidelines. Be careful with what you discuss online and don't breach the privacy of others. Also, don't use other people's devices without their permission. Next is don't abuse your power. There can be people online who have more power or more knowledge than others. They might be moderators for a community or admins in a group chat, or just people who know more about a subject matter. Regardless of what they have or know, they don't have the right to take advantage of anyone. Never abuse your privilege that your position has given you access to. Last is to be forgiving of other people's mistakes. Not everyone is as knowledgeable or as well versed in technology or the virtual world. Furthermore, not everyone knows the rules of netiquette. If you stumble on someone who appears to be rude or someone who doesn't know what they're doing, then practice patience and kindness. Teach them how you would have wanted someone else to teach you at the time. We all had to start somewhere. No one started knowing everything. If you correct someone, do so kindly and privately to avoid embarrassing them. We all make mistakes and we should be forgiving. Alright, so netiquette basics. Help the newbies. This was stated in the last slide. We all had to start somewhere and we all had to learn our way to how we are now. Help others the way you wanted to be helped yourself at the time. Second, research before asking. Okay, and here it talks about the FAQ, but this applies to everything and not just the FAQ of a website. The internet has access to answers to almost every question that you can ask. You just have to search for it. So do yourself and everyone around you a favor and just research before you personally ask someone. It might save everyone the time and the hassle. Third is remember emotion. Now, emotion and meaning can't always transmit in text form. Regardless of this, avoid using all caps and don't overuse emojis. All caps can be seen as rude because it is often correlated with shouting, and emojis can be very unprofessional depending on where you use them. Construct what you want to say carefully. Proofread what you type before sending so as to avoid confusion if you were to make a mistake. Alright, lastly, remember that your digital footprint can be tracked. Alright, so just because you use incognito doesn't mean you're safe. Your internet service provider still has access to what you did and it can easily be recovered. You also might think you're safe because you're using a different account with a different name and a different profile picture. But everything that you say or do online can be tracked back to you. Everything that is posted on the internet stays in the internet, even if you were to delete it. This is because it could have been saved, shared, or recovered beforehand. With that being said, you should always be decent and a responsible person.
So let's go to the criminal activities. So first is hacking. Unauthorized access to corrupt, alter, steal, or destroy electronic data using computers or other information and communication systems without the computer or systems owner's knowledge and consent. It may be an illegal access or illegal access, for example, to the personal files inside the computer or inside the system itself, or illegal interception, like intercept mo bigla yung paggamit. Yung kumbaga, you're using another computer. For example, you're using this phone, then biglang na lang pinasok yung isang computer without any access, without any consent from the owner or without even like letting the owner know na papasok ka. So pag tulangan na or nahuli ka nag-hack, pwede kang makasuhan ng Republic Act 10175 or the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012 that can be 6 years up to 12 years of imprisonment or also known as prison mayor. So ang hacking na kasi it comes in many forms. Pwede i-hack yung kahit FB account, yun. Pwede ma-hack yung FB account. Once na na-hack ang FB account mo, hacking na yun. Or social media, game. Sa games, common yan. Mga ML yan, common yan, ganyan. Kahit sa sa mga like USB kaya may mga ganyan or mga G Drive, even G Drive, Google Drive, ganun. Pag na-hack yan, ma-steal yung information mo or ma-steal yung mga files mo, yun, pwede yan siya maging hacking. So, ang pinakasikat talaga na kilala na hacking dito sa Pilipinas ay walang iba kundi ang I Love You virus. So, the I Love You virus is a computer worm that is created by Onel de Guzman on May 4th, 2000. And kaya lang ito nangyari is, supposedly, thesis to ni Onel de Guzman, ipapasa niya sana ito, kaso nga na-reject. Kasi like, parang hindi raw okay na, kaya ni-reject yung thesis niya. And so yun, nung kumalat tong I love you virus, it affects in a way that it causes override and its disinformation from the affected computer. It automatically sends the virus to the infected PC's contacts. And many people were infected by it because it looks like a simple letter or a love letter. Kasi ganito yun. Yung dati kasi, yung setup ng mga email na yan, ng messaging na yan, may subject, may sender, ganun. Ang mangyari kasi, para sa love letter, syempre mo curious yung tao, okay, uy, yung send sa akin, bam, crush ko to. Ganun, pag-open na ganun. Hala, gulat na siya, may ano na, nadali na siya ng love virus. Then, nagsisend rin to automatically, kunwari. For example, ito siya, contact ko yan, kunwari groupmates ko, contact ko yan sila lahat. Pag na-open ko yun, wala, dami silang lahat. Kaya yun. Next is, commuter-related forgery, fraud, or identity theft. It is an attempt to obtain sensitive information such as username, passwords, and credit card details or indirectly money, often for malicious reasons. Phishing, farming, spam, and pag nakasuhan ka nito, na hatulan ka at pwede ka magpagmultahin ng 200,000 fine or prison major or yung pagkakakulong mismo. Example nito si spamming text, yan common na dito sa SEC. Magbibigay example Ito. Ito, for example ito. Ayan, ay baliktad ba? Pero parang ganyan. Like, congratulations, nanalo ka ng ito, nanalo ka ng BMW, nanalo ka ng iPhone 14 Pro Max, nanalo ka PS5, nanalo ka ng Crypto Barakay. Oh, hindi, wag na pipindutin yung mga, or wag kayo mag-reply doon kasi nako, kawawa kayo doon, legit. Kasi, pag nag-reply ka doon, it's either, sabi siya na, give me your information, give me your credit card, etc. doon. Hindi mas ang pera mo. Yun yung links. Sa FB marami yan, lalo na yung mga, kung yung may mga nag-viral na video, kaya na naman video pa yan, syempre open natin tayo. Lahat ng uri ng video na yan, green man or even ma-viral na aksidente kaya. Pag pinindot mo yung link, pwede ka mapunta dun sa isang site or parang rig na something na pwede ka ma-hack or pwede ka makuhaan ng detail. O pwede ka biktima ng cybercrime. Then ito, various ads on third-party websites. Alam yan yung usually mga nanonood ng streaming, nanonood ng mga anime na internet, and yung mga nagsisearch sa mga, let's say, mga pirated keme. Yung mga site yan dyan na, kunwari, nanalo ka ng 5,000, nanalo ka ng kagito. Pag pinindot mo yun, wala. Ganyan din mangyayari. Makukuhaan ka rin. Okay, so next is, electrical theft. So, electronic theft. So, electronic theft is illegal downloading, obtaining files that you don't have the right to use. Digital piracy, yun, pirated, o baklaran na yan. Practice of illegal copying, and copyright infringement. Ang penalty nito pag nakakasuhan ka nito is, akusahan ka nito is 50,000 to 500,000 and prison major pagkakakulong. So, ayan, illegal downloading. For example, ayan yung mga MP3 juices, yung mga illegal down sa YouTube na walang permission sa owner. Yan, for example ako. Ay, wala kasi akong YouTube. For example ako, kasi nag-YouTube ako. Oops, sorry. Nag-YouTube ako. Ang mangyayari kasi, pag nagkaroon ka ng audio na dinownload mo mismo from YouTube, makaka-copyright ka agad, which means hindi mo ma-monetize ang video mo. Ito, meron ako dito sa cellphone. Ayan. For example, ito yung live ko na to. Yun. Kasi, may nagmamayari niyan. Kumbaga, parang gagamit mo yung pag-aari nila para kumita. Siyempre, hindi matutuwa. Kahit sino naman, di ba? So, ganun. Yun, copyright infringement yun siya. Then, yung obtaining files, yun ang hindi ka papaalam. Digital piracy, nagpa-pirated ka na movie, papirated ka na books, and even songs. Yun. Legal copying, ayun yan. Part na rin yan. So, ito, famous examples na ito. Pwede siya example kisa anime, familiar sa anime fans like me. Kasi dyan din nanonood ako, honestly. And hindi siya pwede kasi wala siya license sa TV Tokyo or sa yung mga ATX, Gonzo, Madhouse, hindi ko alam yung mga yan. Hindi ko maalala. Wala silang license doon. Yung mga browser streaming site, mga Kiss Asian, mga ganun. Wala silang license, manga comic reading sites, yung mga manga kakalat na yan. Yung mga kunwari bibili sila ng dito, tapos isa-scan lang nila, gaganyan lang nila yan. Ito sa edit lang nila. Ganyan. Para may benta ay is either ibebenta or free. Sa mga babae, ito free nila. Okay, next is cyberbullying. Ito. Common talaga to. Actually, memes talaga na yan. Cyberbullying yan. Kasi, yun nga, it is the use of electronic communication to bully a person, typically by sending message or intimidating or threatening nature, or even teasing. Kunwari, may kaklase kang may bad odor. Like, asarin mo siya, hoy, asin, hoy, baho, parang ganyan. Or ipapost mo, ang asin naman ng gising ko, parang ganun. Na like, direkta. Kunwari, pangalan niya is ano, ano bang pwede? Jobert, ganun, Jobert. Pati baho mo, Jobert. Baho ng gising ko lagi. Mga ganun, bullying. Kasi, kung ganyan, parang pinapakalat mo eh, hindi PM eh. Tsaka bullying na pang-aasar. Kahit PM, pang-aasar na rin yun. And even just teasing or mocking someone on the internet is also considered cyberbullying. The nature of cyberbullying is broad in a way that even memes, kunwari yan kay Jormel, o yan kay Rendon Labador, yung mga memes na yan, pwede rin yan maging bullying eh. G. Or even, kunwari yung mga posting na pagtulog yung tao, pagtulog yung tao, tapos nakanganga, binost, tapos may caption, bullying na rin yun. Kaya ganun, delikado, hindi pwede yan. And makakasuhan ka ng Anti-Bullying Act of 2013 RA 10627 and hindi ka rin makasuhan yung cybercrime law. Diba? Matindi. Matindi talaga. Okay, next is cybersex. Ito, syempre that maging open-minded tayo. It is a willful engagement, maintenance, control, or operation indirectly or indirectly. Yan nila serious exhibition of sexual organs or sexual activity with the aid of computer system for favor or consideration. Example sa ito is mga nag-live show, cam show, binubugaw sarili. O kaya, ang pinamasakit doon, kukonect natin siya mamaya sa child pornography. It is also sharing, selling, and spreading videos, especially if it shows sexual activities without consent can be considered as cybersex crime. For example, video nyo, yun sa inyo. Then, nag-break kayo kumari. Out of hatred or ganti. Ginantihan mo siya. Pinost mo. Hindi yun pwede. Kasi pwede ka makasama ng cybersex doon. And blackmailing, I think, pwede ka masukan doon. Kasi wala siyang consent. Or example, AFAM na ano pa lang, human trafficking. Yan, human trafficking. Pwede, ano rin siya, connected rin siya. Kung kukunik lang yan sila. Ayun, connect sila. Kaya ganun. This is also issued nga yan. It is also issued with the Republic Act 9260 or the Violence Against Children, Women and Children Act of Policy. And its penalty reaches at least up to 200,000 or prison measure. Child pornography is also connected to cybersex. Cybersex is like, child pornography is just like cybersex na like gruesome kasi like, anak mo or relative mo, binubugaw mo para magkapera. Hindi maganda yun talaga. Such an awful manner doing that kind of stuff. Child exploitation. Sarili mo anak, sarili mong, or kaibigang anak, kaibigang bata, kakailangan bata, or minor de edad. Yun. Binubugaw mo para magkapera. Diba? Although like gusto nila, pero hindi pwede yun. Unlawful or prohibited acts defined by punishable the Republic Act 9775 or Anti-Child Pornography Law of 2009. Committed through a computer system. Penalty of 12 to 20 years of imprisonment or repression temporal. Diba? Malala, hindi maganda. Okay? So next is cyber defamation. Cyber defamation is a privileged false statement of fact which tends to harm the reputation of a person or a company. Kumbaga, blackmail mo sila or sisira mo sila through the internet. For example, yung Starbucks nagbebenta ng ipot na, yung kape na may ipot. Ganun lang sabihin mo. Hindi pwede yun. Kasi, sisira mo sila without any evidence. Or even with evidence, but not strong enough. Hindi pwede yun. Pwede ka makasama ng cyber defamation. Or even pag sisira mo isang tao, kunwari yan si Bongbong Marcos or si Lenny, ganito. No, pwede ka makasama yan. And also, cyber libel can be also connected to cyber defamation. Here's the reason why. The difference is cyber defamation is a privileged false statement with the fact to harm the reputation of a person or company, diba? It's a catch-all term for both libel and slander. Cyber libel is a defamation. The first word, defamation, which is written such as on a website. Bale, or sa mga blog or even posting. Isira mo isang tao sa FB. Yung kunwari, kita pa rin lang. Cyber libel na rin yun. Or even sharing a prop or a person's post, then naglagay ka ng panira. Cyber libel na rin yun. Actually, meron kami naranasan yan eh. Kasi may kaklase ko, pinagtripan niya siyang picture ng school, na doon yung mga school stuff. Then nilagay niya doon yung picture ni Bong Revilla, yung budots na sumasayaw sa gitna. Ayun, nagalit yung school staff. Kakasuhan siya ng cyber libel kung hindi nila delete. Ayun, kasi sisiraan niya sa FB. Since FB can be public, depending on the setting, privacy setting. But, I think public si page yun. Page yun na kasama ko dun sa page. Kaya yun, dinelete na nakasama ko. Napapahamak po kami. Dito, kasama rin about slanders and defamation that is spoken such as through transcribed video, podcast, audio, or file. Ito naman slanders, nag-live show ka, may sisiraan ka, ganun. Or nagpa-podcast. Or even video. For example, ito nag-video. Oy, ano ba sige ito din? Hindi, siya na, ganun. Hindi maganda yun. Kasi, ano ba, alam nyo, rather, bakit? Just pwede ka makasuha ng 6 to 12 years of imprisonment or prison na yun. Ayun. So that's all for the criminal activities, and I hope you learned something from me. And thank you for listening.
Lesson 3, we have internet threats. So now let us define what is an internet threats. What is internet threats? An internet threat, or also known as cyber threat, is a form of action that violates the internet etiquette that can lead to information leaks, personal damages, theft, and etc. It is a course of action that is inappropriate or undesirable on the web. How do you distinguish an internet threat? Internet threats or cyber threats could be distinguished through the following forms, such as by checking the URL or the validity of the URL, server being used because some servers are not properly secured or protected, counter-checking data when it comes to emails, the data that they are sending. How can a threat enter your internet or web? For an internet threat could come into different ways into penetrating your computer. It is separated into 3 ways, such as firewall, server, network, and link. So if a computer is not downloaded with a firewall system or antivirus system, technically, you are very prone into internet threats. For the server, if the server being used by the computer or internet doesn't have a strong security system, or if it is an open server. Same as well for the network and link. Types of internet threats. Computer viruses. It is the most common type of threat in the internet or computer system. It infects or deteriorates your system if not monitored. For malware, it is also known as ransomware. It is an internet threat that locks your system, files, or data. It can only be unlocked if you give the request of the attacker. Phishing, also known as identity theft. Usually, this is mostly common in our banks or in our cards accounts. Usually, the target for this kind of threats are personal information that may be linked into accounts. Botnets, connected also to malware or ransomware. It uses the same method applied to series of system or servers. So instead of attacking only one server or one computer, on botnets, it attacks series of computers. The Trojan horse, it is a kind of software or app that is made to look legit. In this way, hackers could penetrate the system easier. Usually, a Trojan horse is an app or software that carries different kind of viruses and threats. Rogue security software. It is a virus or threat in the form of a security system. It is dressed as a legit antivirus system that once imputed into your system, it will then start to control or penetrate the system.
The next type of internet threat we have hacking. So hacking, a commonly used definition, is the act of compromising digital devices and networks through unauthorized access to an account or computer system. So hacking is not always a malicious act, but is mostly commonly associated with illegal activity and data theft by criminals. So below are the most common types of hacking. We have social engineering, ransomware, phishing attack, denial of service, or also known as DDoS, bait and switch, man-in-the-middle attack, packet sniffing, Trojan viruses, cookie theft, and backdoor attacks. On to farming. So farming is like a phishing in that it is a threat that tricks users into divulging private information, but instead of relying on an email as the attack vector, farming uses malicious code executed on the victim's device to redirect to an attacker-controlled website. Because farming runs code on the victim's computer, the attacker does not rely on the targeted user clicking a link or replying to an email. Instead, the malicious code directs the targeted user to the attacker's website, eliminating the extra step of a user clicking a link. So two types of farming. We have farming malware and DNS poisoning. So what are these two types of farming? So farming malware is actually also known as DNS changers or hijackers, which infects a victim's computer and stealthily makes changes to the victim's host file. So and it helps to think of your computer's host file as a Rolodex of websites. And when it comes naman to DNS poisoning, also known as DNS spoofing, takes advantage of exploits in the software that controls DNS servers in order to hijack the servers and reroute web traffic. Typically, DNS poisoning goes after the companies that run and maintain the DNS servers that translate human-friendly domain names into computer-ready IP addresses. Moving on to the next type of internet threat, we have what you call as the ransomware. So ransomware is a type of malware or malicious software that locks up a victim's data or computing device and threatens to keep it locked, or worse, unless the victim pays the attacker a ransom. So basically, is almost the same concept as what we have in real life, which is yung mga people taking other people's hostages for ransom. So parang ganun lang rin dito sa this type of internet threats, but instead of them using people as ransom, they use your data as a vector for ransom. So most common types of ransomware, we have locker ransomware, crypto ransomware, double extortion ransomware, and the RAAS. So basically, a locker ransomware blocks access to your computer systems entirely. So this variant uses social engineering techniques and compromised credentials to infiltrate systems. And a crypto ransomware naman is more common and widespread than locker ransomware, and it encrypts all or some of the files on a computer and demands ransom from a victim in exchange for a decryption key. And double extortion ransomware encrypts a file and exports data to blackmail victims into paying a ransom. And lastly, RAAS involves a perpetrator renting access to a ransomware from the ransomware author, which who offers it as a pay-for-use service. Spam. So spam is when you open your email inbox and see dozens or if not hundreds of emails that you didn't ask for. You're looking at a spam. So in technical terms, spam is a term for unwanted, unsolicited mass communication. So while the term is most commonly associated with email, it can also be used to refer to spam comments on blogs and social media, physical junk mail, robocalls, and more. So there are lots of things under spam. So a spam can be found in your emails, even in social media comments, comment sections, etc. And types of spam or spam email. So very self-explanatory. Spam chain messages, commercial advertisements, fake news spam, antivirus warning, money scams, email spoofing, lottery scam, spams. That's how spam. We move on to the next type of internet threat, which is spyware. So spyware is a type of malware that tries to keep itself hidden while it secretly records information and tracks your online activities on your computers or mobile devices. So you can monitor and copy everything that you enter, upload, download, and store. So some strains of spyware are also capable of activating cameras and microphones to watch and listen to you undetected or without you knowing. So what are the most common types of spyware? We have four. We have keyloggers, password stealers, info stealers, and banking trojans. So keyloggers, also known as system monitors, keyloggers are designed to record your computer's activity, including keystrokes, search history, email activity, chat room communications, websites access, system credentials, etc., and more. And moving on to password stealers. So as their name suggests, these types of spyware will collect any passwords inserted into an infected device. And with regards naman to info stealers, so info stealers is when a PC or other device is infected with this type of spyware. It can provide third parties with sensitive information such as password, usernames, email addresses, log files, browser history, system information, spreadsheets, etc. So moving on naman to banking trojans, like info stealers, banking trojans take advantage of browser security vulnerabilities to acquire credentials from financial institutions, modify transaction content or web pages, or insert additional transactions, among other things. We have Wi-Fi eavesdropping. So what is Wi-Fi eavesdropping? Well, Wi-Fi eavesdropping, also known as evil twin attack, is a type of man-in-the-middle attack that tricks unsuspecting victims into connecting to a malicious Wi-Fi network. So to perform Wi-Fi eavesdropping, a hacker sets up a Wi-Fi hotspot near a location where people usually connect to a public Wi-Fi network. This can be a hotel, a restaurant, or even your local Starbucks. And the hacker then names the hotspot after the actual public network that people use in that location. Thus the name implies evil twin. So two other types of eavesdropping, we have technical eavesdropping and data sniffing. We have worms. So computer worm is a subset of the Trojan horse malware that can propagate or self-replicate from one computer to another without human activation after breaching a system. Typically, a worm spreads across a network through your internet or LAN, or local area network as they call it, connection. And what are the common types of computer worms? So these are just some of the computer worms we have. So we have internet worms, email worms, instant messaging worms, file sharing worms, and IRC worms. So the aforementioned types of internet threats that were mentioned earlier are just some of the internet threats that we have or that can be found inside or when using the internet. And there are still plenty more internet threats that can be encountered or experienced, if not hundreds, maybe thousands. So we now move on to how to avoid these internet threats.
Hello guys, I'm Leonard Julius Bulaga. I'll be discussing ways on how to avoid internet threats. So let's start off. We all know that we can all help to protect ourselves online by creating strong passwords, avoiding dangerous links, and backing up our data. So here are the other things that or tips that we can use for stay safer online. Number one is don't open mail from strangers. So all of us know that if we receive a phishing email or malware attached, we do not need to download it. So next one is make sure your devices are up to date. If you haven't already enabled automatic updates from your security software, web browsers, and devices. So always make sure that our devices are up to date. So number three, use strong passwords. There are several ways to protect ourselves from identity theft online, one of which is to use a strong password. So number four, use two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication is an excellent way to ensure that we are securely logging into our online accounts. So number 5, don't click strange-looking links. So if you receive a suspicious link, do not click on it. Viruses and other types of malwares are frequently spread when you click on a link from someone you don't know. So next is avoid using unsecured public Wi-Fi. If possible, avoid using unsecured public Wi-Fi on your devices. So number 7, back up your data regularly. So certain types of security breaches can be mitigated by backing up your data. Number 8, be smart with your financial information. Take care where you enter your sensitive information, such as your credit card number online. And number 9, educate your family. Children can learn about cyber safety by visiting the Safer Internet Day website as well as the social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And lastly, number 10, avoid sharing personal information. So never give out our personal information such as your full name, address, or financial information to strangers that you meet online. So next is ways on how to resolve internet threats. So cybercriminals are targeting all sizes. Small businesses account for 43% of all accidents, with an average damage cost of $879,582. Some of the most recent victims are including Equifax, Netflix, Sonic, and Yahoo. So even big corporate companies have these issues. So insider threats, 69% of security professionals have data stolen or corrupted by someone. And addressing IT security threats, unfortunately, some are unsure where to begin when it comes to dealing with common IT security threats. You're a vulnerable target, so it puts your experts in charge, allowing you to rest easier knowing that you're taking the necessary steps to protect yourselves from lurking cyber threats. So how to deal with phishing. So there are several methods for detecting and avoiding phishing attacks. So the first one is ensure that your IT equipment is up to date. Second is be wary of emails and phone calls that seem overly alarming or odd. The next thing is if you are unsure whether a phone call or an email is genuine, contact the company before responding. So and lastly, if you believe you have been a victim of phishing scam, contact the appropriate authorities. Next is how to deal with malware. So again, there are several steps you can take to protect yourself. So next, the first one is make sure your anti-malware software is up to date and installed in your device. Second is make a backup of your data, especially important files, and keep it in the offline location. And next is only open files and software from known and trusted sources. Next is examine the content and correspondence to the identity or any anomalies, as you should with phishing scams. So lastly, prepare a plan for dealing with a potential malware attack. Next one is how to deal with ransomware. So victims of ransomware attacks may feel helpless when they are unable to access their files. So many of the cybersecurity threats on this list can be avoided by taking the following precautions. So the first one is ensure your antivirus software is up to date. And second, set up your devices to run only authorized software and applications. So next is if you are the victim of ransomware attack, immediately notify or remove the impacted machine from the network. So lastly, inform the appropriate authorities about the violation. Pay the ransom, but notify the appropriate organization so they can further assist you. Next is how to deal with MITM attacks. Because of these types of attacks can be difficult to detect. Prevention is a far more effective method of dealing with MITM attacks. The first one is ensure that all access points are secure. Wi-Fi networks are frequently vulnerable to man-in-the-middle attacks, so creating strong and secure passwords are critical. So next is use VPN for sensitive data. It can provide a secure environment. So lastly, keep your web browsers up to date. Patches are frequently released to address security flaws. Next is how to deal with DDoS attacks. So even IT professionals with access to servers and networks handle large portion of prevention and response to DDoS attacks. They frequently make it certain that service security solutions are in place. So for us, the ordinary users, on the other hand, we can help by following the same procedures and precautions as they would for malware prevention. So with so much in our personal information at our own fingertips, there are always cyber threats to be aware of. Everyone can benefit from some basic cybersecurity training, and with our selection of micro credentials, you'd be well on your way to mastering this important skill. So that is all from me. Thank you very much and have a good day.